Welcome, my dear audience and friends, to another episode of Cancer Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps, and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. I'd like to wish all the amazing women happy Women's Month. And we're so happy that we're here still making progress after all these years. The whole focus this month is to introduce to you women and men who are having outstanding contributions, to women's health. And these are global innovators and entrepreneurs who have positioned themselves in the AI and digital health space as it regards women's health. Now, we all know what it is like when it comes to cancer. I'm a cancer survivor myself. The American Cancer Society says breast cancer has a 99% survival rate in the United States. But in developing nations like Africa and Latin America, that rate drops to 27%. And why is this so? Early detection and access to treatment. It is why I have the honor and privilege of introducing my next amazing guest, who is really disrupting healthcare. He's an entrepreneur and change maker from Argentina. He's a Bloomberg Innovator 2023. He is a 30 under 30 Forbes, and he has started several companies in different industries in Europe and Latin America. Now, for the last 11 years, my amazing guest, who is the CEO of MOTT, which is an innovation that uses AI to detect breast cancer with accuracy. But without spilling too much of the beans, I'm going to be welcoming this amazing gentleman. Welcome, Guillermo Pepe, to the show, and thank you so much for coming. We are so honored.
Thank you very much, Grace, for having me here, for the invitation. It's really an honor to be here today, especially during this month, that it's a very important month for women worldwide.
Thank you so much, sir. So let us start by asking what inspired you to develop MAMO.
Well, that's quite a long story. I'm gonna make it short.
Yes.
That all started in a conversation with my father, and this was about 12 years ago. At the time, I was always an entrepreneur, as you said, in different industries, in different countries and continents. At the time, I was living in Europe, in Spain, Madrid, and I was in a whole different industry. An industry that has to do with entertainment, nothing to do with healthcare. Both of my parents are medical doctors, anyway, so that's why it all started. And my father came to Spain to visit me, and we were having a regular conversation, father and son, and he showed me how frustrated he was at the time, and that was because women were arriving late to his office. He couldn't. He said, I remember his words very clear, and it was, I studied all my life in order to save lives, and the only thing I can do at this moment is just telling them that they are coming late. And that really caught my attention at the time. I was also going through a frustrating period of my life. Like I didn't really find fulfillment in what I was doing. So when he said that, that caught my attention. I said, why, what is going on? And he said, well, they're arriving late and I don't know what to do. So I started to do a research on why women were arriving late to his office. And I found out that contrary to what was happening in Europe, women in Latin America didn't have access to early diagnosis, just as you mentioned. And this was because there were several barriers that were distancing women from having that kind of access. So that I told him, hey, why don't we work on trying to solve this problem on breaking down these barriers so more women will come to your office. But just as I studied business administration, so I said maybe I can give you a hand with that, and then you won't be frustrated anymore. And then I started working with him, like helping him, and at a certain point, I said, "Hey, this is much bigger than I thought it was." So we could do much more than just helping my father not being frustrated, which
Yes.
was doing. So that was the way. That was why we started MAMOTTs in the first place.
Oh, wonderful. So it was, I didn't realize that your dad was in the medical field. So that really, helped, kind of consolidate this, I would say.
Yeah. Actually, he's a medical doctor, radiologist specializing on breast imaging
Oh.
diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
His office was located in Corrientes, in the north of Argentina, the very north, one of the poorest provinces in Argentina, close to the border with Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there were so many barriers, and we had to start working in all of them at the time.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. That's so nice. So, what makes mammo test different from others? And first of all, uh, being a cancer survivor myself, if I had that innovation in my hand, if I had that opportunity to use it, can you walk me through how I would start?
Yeah, actually, for a regular patient, and there is no difference. So that's why it's so easy.
Yes.
You just have to go to a mammography facility. You have the mammogram done, and once the image of your mammogram is uploaded to our platform, then
Mm-hmm.
it gets interpretation from medical doctors
Mm-hmm.
specializing on breast imaging diagnosis and
Mm-hmm.
assisted by artificial intelligence in order to do it more efficiently and more accurate, right?
Yeah.
So that is where the main difference is
Okay.
in the way that it's not just a regular interpretation by any medical doctor, but it's a specialized medical doctor. And this is very important to stress because in Latin America or Africa, many times these mammograms are read by medical doctors that are not specialized in breast
Yeah.
diagnosis. Of course, that drives down the possibility of finding early cancer at an early stage, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's wonderful. So this is, and then it seems that the AI that, is being utilized is working hand in hand as it should, or has a kind of humane face alongside the doctors. Let us put it that way for
Yeah,
interpretation.
actually, it's a teamwork, right? It's human plus artificial intelligence. We call it augmented intelligence
Hmm.
because it's human plus technology
Hmm.
working together. And of course, it's not just that. That's the technological technological part of the
Part.
solution. This is a comprehensive solution. It's not just we are not just developing technology. We are
Yeah.
also in the past we even passed legislation in several states in Latin America, in Argentina, and Mexico. So women would have days off of work in order to go for a mammogram or visit a gynecologist.
Hmm.
Um, and this may sound really, pretty normal for the US or Europe, but it wasn't, many women weren't allowed to do that in the past in Latin
Yeah.
America or Africa, maybe.
Yes.
So we started working from there, pushing for legislation, working with NGOs, articulating our work with governments in different states, companies that were interested in women's health. So it was a huge work, very comprehensive work.
Hmm.
Um, and this is like, I'm speaking out 11 years ago, we started like that. At the time, we also worked in awareness campaigns because even when we were, installing mammography units, state-of-the-art mammography units in underserved areas, women didn't know that they have to go for a mammogram yearly once they were 40 years old. So we had to do all that work. And of course, that gave us a lot of visibility. And because of that, we got a lot of international awards by United Nations, American College of Radiology, World Economic Forum. And since then, we started not just working on breaking all types of barriers that were distancing women from having access to early diagnosis, but also in improving our technology so we would have a better outcome when it comes to reporting mammograms, right?
Yes, the results.
Yeah, exactly. And also timing, which is very important, especially in countries where it could take months for a woman to get a report from a mom, right? So we wanted that to happen instantly in less than 24 hours. And this is what we are doing now.
That's awesome, honestly. For the audience that's watching now, I had the opportunity to read about MAMO test, being someone who is certified in digital health innovations and digital health creation. And I came across MAMO test, and I had to bring this to the panel that I was sitting on because it was something very dear. It just struck a chord in my heart that this is something that is, that we actually did not come across. We're looking at other places, but I was so proud that this was coming out of Latin America, and being that I'm originally an African born. I was looking at, how I wish this was actually on our continent, to be able to help those women in the rural areas. So this is how MAMO test came on my radar, and that is why I'm privileged to bring Guillermo today. So Guillermo, what kind of research or testing was conducted to be able to, should I say, know the effectiveness of this, your innovation? You must have gone through so much to be able to ensure that the efficacy is sound.
Yeah, of course. There were many research that focus on the effectiveness of our solution. Different consultancy groups, like I remember the very first one was paid by Swiss Development and Cooperation Agency back in, I don't know, that was like 8 years ago, and show how every center we were opening at the time was saving the healthcare system millions of dollars. I remember it was for every center about $50 million of savings a year to the healthcare system. That was when MAMOTTs was more of a brick and mortar solution. We would say we were opening ourselves mammography centers. We don't do that anymore because today 10 years later, you can find so much mammography units installed that so we don't need to invest on that. We do need to connect those mammography centers to our medical doctors and artificial intelligence in order to do it more efficiently. So that was the very first. We also were part of a British journal, British medical journal research about cost effectiveness in low and middle income countries. Actually, there is a work focusing in Argentina, and even if our name is not there as MAMOTTs because it cannot be, the case study is MAMOTTs, and it shows how much money we were saving to the healthcare system in general by using telemammography, so we could cover underserved population, and how we were, saving lives.
Absolutely. That's very interesting, and that's amazing. The whole essence is the intersection between life and savings, you understand, to be able to cut those costs,
Exactly.
That is very important when, you know, having startups like this is savings first, and then, you know, the actual issue, which is to save the lives of the women. Yes. What about data security? What about data privacy? Because even here in the United States where we are, we're being hacked. Just last week, you know, there was some hacking that went on in the pharmaceutical setup. How do you ensure that the patient's privacy is, you know, under lock and key, so to speak?
Yeah, well, of course, we're taking all possible measures in order to make it as safe as possible.
Mhm.
We are really concerned about that um, risk the high risk that is involved in our operations, and of course we try to um, decrease that risk by partnering with important tech companies such as Amazon Web Services, where we operate, where we have our cloud,
Okay.
uh,
AWS.
yeah, AWS, exactly. That, and of course, taking every possible measure internally, because that is in some way the way you expose you're exposed to this kind of risk is by when you internally you don't get that the kind of risk that you are confronting.
Mhm.
Sometimes you lower your barriers, and then that is when you have the highest risk of losing data or being hacked. But I know that this is something that it has to be done on a daily basis. You have to be paying attention all the time. And as I always say, it's much easier to do harm than to do
Thank
good.
good.
And luckily, because you're when someone wants to harm, they are constantly looking for ways to harm,
Mhm.
and doing good is much more difficult, right? So sometimes you have to be not just focusing on doing good, but on seeing how you can prevent these people from harming you and
Yeah.
your your patients, right?
Yes, exactly. That is so true. That is something that you know, frightens people. You know, they're like, okay, we can do everything that's good in the book, but now we have to start preventing people from trying to enter our space, you know, with malicious intent,
Exactly.
as they say. Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. So, for that person that wants to start, you know, that is trying to venture into something like yours, what are the challenges that you met with when you were trying to set this enviable innovation up? What lessons did you learn when you were doing this?
I guess then the kind of lessons I learned 11 years ago when I started are so much different to the kind of lesson that you could be learning today, which in my opinion are, uh, the challenges are smaller than than when I started 10 or 11 years ago. You have much more technology, much more ways of being very efficient in order, to start a company. You can start a company with a solo man, a solo entrepreneur, right? Like it's much easier today than it was a few years ago, when at the time there was even a problem to send images,
Mm.
mammograms, on the internet, because Wi-Fi in the countryside in Latin America, it wasn't working very well. So we couldn't send mammography images,
Yes,
to our network of medical doctors.
of doctors.
Yeah, so at the time we confronted so much trouble, even culturally, because I remember, many medical doctors were, that were against us because we were doing interpretation from hundreds or thousand kilometers away. So these medical doctors at the local place
Levels.
where we had our mammography centers were saying, no, that's low quality. It's impossible that you could have this read by a medical doctor that doesn't even know who is the woman he or she is interpreting the mammogram.
Yes.
So there were a lot of cultural barriers at the time. Even as I said before, we even had to pass legislation so women would have these days off of work. And when you think of that today, it's like, really, they didn't allow these women to go to a
At
doctor?
that
Like,
time.
yeah. And it's not very far away, right? It's just 10 years
Yeah.
ago, but it was like that.
I
So,
can, yeah.
and so there were so many like cultural barriers, technical barriers that today I feel that are not there. It's much more easy to start a tech company today, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, there were so many barriers that even when I thought of today, I say to myself like, wow, and we really managed to go through that. But and it's amazing. It really fulfills me that we kept on fighting and moving forward, and we were never
And trying to create policies, because without policies these things can't happen. Do you understand? So you were there at the forefront, you had this stuff, and you had to make lawmakers see reason to be able to make sure that these women could be allowed to go, could be allowed to, even having the opportunity to go is one step towards a cure. You understand?
totally.
So
We,
yeah,
we didn't have that opportunity before we started doing it. And also now that you mentioned, it's not just cultural and policy. There were economic barriers too, because
yes.
of course in Latin America, especially in Argentina, where the economy is very, very unstable and with high inflation rates and everything, it's really difficult to invest in mammography units. At the time, mammography units were about $250,000 dollars a mammography unit,
Yes.
and we had to acquire those mammography units in dollars, install it, make it work, and pay it back in Argentine pesos, right? Which
Oh,
were
wow.
continually devaluating. So yeah, when I see backwards, it's like, wow, we went through so much. That definitely made us strong. I'm sure of that. I feel like today, I feel that Mammoth is so strong that we could go, anything could happen, we would be there anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, things like that. We also, at the time, the concept of health tech didn't exist. So there were no investors focusing on healthcare. Healthcare was an industry that lags behind every other industry in terms of tech adoption. Uh,
Yes.
and that happened until 2020 with the COVID, when
COVID.
it started to change. Uh, but until that time, no investor was interested in healthcare. So it was also very difficult. We had to bootstrap during 9 years, 8, 9 years. Uh, and when COVID happened, many investors started to look into healthcare as an industry where tech uh, could or would have the ability to disrupt. So we that is when we started, being joined by many investors that helped us scale our solution to other countries, to become much more much more of a tech company. Not just I always say that we used to be a healthcare company enhanced by technology. We are now a tech company focusing on healthcare.
Yes. Absolutely. That's wonderful. And you see, like when I talk to innovators like you, I'm like, well, COVID did something good in a way. We lost so many people, but because it forced us to think outside the box and really, see how to scale them more during that, very critical situation that we found ourselves in 2020 and all that. That's amazing, honestly. Just you telling us this, I'm like visualizing all the steps that you had to take to be able to, go through that. Oh, wow. Anyway, I know that we have time running out soon, but I would like to ask you this question. Where do you see MAMO test in 10 years' time?
Well, actually, I'm seeing MOTTs as part of a much bigger organization that we're also working on, and its name is Boulder. Boulder, it's an AI solution that it's also democratizing access to screening, diagnosis, and giving a path to treatment, but maybe not just in breast cancer, but in other types of cancers. So we're working on that. Of course, the thing with MAMO is it has limitations regarding what kind of cancer you are trying to defeat. MAMO test it drives you to breast cancer, but so that's why we're working on this other solution that it could take care of other types of cancer and maybe other types of diseases by using the same process, right?
Yes.
Opening up. What we have is sort of a imaging marketplace where we connect clinics and hospitals to a big network of medical doctors, radiologists, specialists on different areas. So they would have access to these clinics and hospitals. Clinics and hospitals, they don't have to hire medical doctors anymore. For interpretation of images, they can have access to this type of network. And this is very important in places like Latin America or Africa, where you have a huge shortage of medical doctors, especially in radiology. And these medical doctors are also at the same time assisted by artificial intelligence in order to do interpretation of images. So that makes it much more accurate, much faster, much more efficient. You can identify people at risk, patient at risk easier. And once you identify this patient at risk, you start following them using our platform, a platform for patient follow-up, patient support. So we help these patients navigate the healthcare system, which in Latin America or Africa are very difficult to navigate.
Very cumbersome. Yes, very, very cumbersome. And especially you mentioned something very important with the medical doctors. Capacity building is short, there. It's limited. So if you're paying for these things, you also have to ensure that you're paying for the education of the doctors that are even coming up that will take over from these ones. So it's a continuous process, but it's money, so
there's always money involved, of course. Yeah. So for every solution that you bring up and you start implementing, you have to make sure that it is financially sustainable, right? You cannot implement something that it has not sustainability in the long term. You have to make sure that wherever you implement, it has the ability to get the type to monetize, so you could sustain it in the long term. Make sure that everyone is gonna have access to this solution.
You're so right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all you do. One of the questions I usually ask my audience before I allow them to go is, if you could change one thing about healthcare, what would that be?
Well, what a question.
I caught you unawares there.
I always say, no, what I always say, and this is something I really believe is, our actual health system, its name is, it's wrong. It's a sick care system. The system waits for you to get ill, so they take care of you. Usually, it's late, it's very expensive, so it's really inefficient. So it works very inefficiently. What we are working today on is on changing that sick care system to a real healthcare system, a system that really prevents you from getting ill. Of course, I'm referring, we are working on, it's we as humanity, right? Everyone that is involved, not just MAMO Test as an organization, but we are all working on trying to convert this sick care system into a real healthcare system that prevents you to get from getting ill. And this is by giving access, democratizing access to screening, to diagnosis, to supporting patients. They're at risk, so they can navigate easily and get to a treatment much faster, and save money to the whole system, to the system in general. Most of the healthcare systems worldwide are highly inefficient. For instance, just in the US, the GDP, it's the expenses on healthcare, it's 25% of its GDP.
That's huge.
Totally inefficient.
Yes.
So there is so much room to do things much better, and I do believe that with these tech advancements, we are like we've never before been at a place where we could be working on this type of advancements for the humanity in general.
Absolutely, Guillermo. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. So before I let you go, what are you going to be doing? How do you unwind and look so fresh? What do you do?
No, I usually, well, I'm a sport guy. I usually do a sport like every
Guillermo,
day.
I saw your when I saw your picture, I said, this guy is lifting weights, you know.
Oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that too. Well, I used to run marathons. I run
Oh,
many
nice.
marathons. Yeah, I ran New York, Paris, London,
Ooh la la. That's
Paris,
nice.
Berlin. Yeah, many places. Um, Now I don't do that anymore because my knee is not helping me anymore. I need a knee replacement, and that is true. But I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a better tech advancement on knee replacement. Uh,
Wow, I'm sure it will come. I'm sure it
yeah,
will
it will.
come.
It will. I'm sure. I'm sure it will.
Definitely.
I'm waiting for that. While I wait, I'm doing other sports like lift weighting. I walk a lot. I'm focusing a lot on eating very well. Like this is something that really adds quality to my life. Eating very well. Yeah, and I'm out of sugar. I don't consume sugar anymore. Things like that.
That's wonderful. That's why you're looking very fresh. So now we know your secrets. Thank you so much, Guillermo, for coming on board. Truly, truly, truly. I'm so happy that, I was forward to reach out to you and say, you have to come. As a breast cancer survivor, it gives me and my community so much joy to have you speak with us. And I pray to bring you back, or one of these days I'll come to Argentina. Who knows? You
Yeah.
know, so I would love to.
You
Thank
you
you
can
so
also you
much.
can also come to Miami. I'm in Miami now.
Oh, you're in Miami.
Yeah.
I will come to Miami. Please invite me. I will come.
So yeah, no, thank you very much for your work, Grace. This really helps us and helps everyone everywhere. People that are involved, like you, in a cause like this one. They deserve our admiration So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So before I let you go, let me sign out. So, my dear audience and friends, there you have it. You've been listening to the amazing Guillermo Pepe, the CEO of MAMO Test. God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye-bye.